Killed while jogging, Sydney Sassy Sutherland. Sydney Sutherland's killer, who is now in prison for life, rammed her with his pickup while she was jogging along a rural highway just outside of Newport, Arkansas on August 19, 2020. Sutherland, also known as Sassy by those who loved her, was a 25-year-old nurse who lived in a rural farming area in Jackson County, Arkansas. Both her family and the killer's family owned many acres of farmland in Jackson County, and they graduated from the same high school 3 years apart. One member of the community said it wouldn't have been unusual for them to run into each other. Even the prosecuting attorney, Henry Boyce, said that he knows both families. Arkansas State Police Special Agent Mike McNeil testified in a court hearing that Llewellyn turned his truck around and abducted Sutherland.
In an update to the killing of Sydney Sutherland, 28-year-old Quake Llewellyn has now been arraigned on charges of capital murder, rape, and kidnapping. Those last two charges are new. Officials now say he not only killed Sutherland, but that he also abducted and assaulted her last Wednesday. She was out for a run on State Highway 18. Her body was found 2 days later. Llewellyn has not entered a plea in his case. THV 11 will continue updating this story online and on the air.
McNeil said Llewellyn drove about 3 miles to a farm where he raped Sutherland, killed her, and buried her body. A search began for Sutherland on August 20, 2020. During the search, law enforcement located her iPhone in a field about 1.3 miles from her home. Now convicted for her murder, a plea he took to avoid going to trial for the death penalty, Quake Llewellyn was first interviewed by law enforcement, where he said he saw her running on a country road 41 before her disappearance. During a consent search of Llewellyn's phone, agents found a location services application that tracks the phone's geographical location. About an hour after Sutherland was reported missing, the app on Llewellyn's phone indicated that he was at a location approximately 2.36 miles from where Sutherland's phone was located. The next day, Sutherland's deceased body was located just a few yards from where the location services app indicated Llewellyn's location was. Also the same day, while being interviewed, Llewellyn stated that he struck Sutherland with his vehicle. He then loaded her in his pickup and transported her to the area indicated by the location app. Llewellyn then stated that he took off her shorts and raped her, then buried her at that location. He was charged with capital murder, kidnapping, rape, and abuse of a corpse. Llewellyn joined a search party in trying to find Sutherland. About 150 people were in the search party, and Llewellyn was also a member of a Facebook page dedicated to finding Sutherland. In addition, during the search, Llewellyn hugged Sutherland's mother. Llewellyn was listed as a member of a Sydney Sutherland search party page on Facebook. Winston, a local resident who joined the search, said he saw Llewellyn there 3 or 4 times over the course of the 2-day search. A friend of Sutherland's who asked to remain anonymous also confirmed that Llewellyn was at the search party. Family friends described Sutherland as a lively, spunky, and beautiful girl. Everybody obviously loves her, and you can tell by all the people out there searching for her.
Just outside Newport, tonight, Sydney Sutherland, the young nurse from Jackson County, Arkansas, and the family who was forced into the national spotlight for all of the wrong reasons.
Sydney Sutherland is my baby girl, my best friend.
Maggie Sutherland, Sydney's mom, says the mother-daughter duo were always side by side.
We go to ball games, instead of sit with friends, she would sit with me.
Sydney, just 25, a little sister.
She was always the baby.
Sam, one of her big brothers.
Family events, I mean, she'd let you know what you needed to bring and how it was going to go.
From either side of our family, she was the only girl. We had all boys.
Days before their nightmare would begin, the family was on a vacation in Florida, a regular getaway trip. Sam's then 5-month-old daughter with Sydney, better known as Aunt Sassy.
She loved being an aunt.
She's going toward the wind.
That's who she was.
The Sutherlands got back to Jackson County late that Tuesday night, August 18th, 2020.
We got home, we just went straight to bed.
Yes.
And next morning it was back to work. And
And Sydney, after a workout with the trainer, captured on this surveillance photo the next morning, unloading from the family's vacation, the last photo they have of her. The 25-year-old went for her run on Jackson County Road 41. The phone rang a few hours later. It was Sydney's boyfriend.
He called me right after 5 and he says, "Have you seen Sydney?" And I said, "No."
Calls to Sydney went to voicemail.
My heart just dropped.
Texts unanswered.
Something just was not right.
All hands-on search started for Sydney.
we were just trying to find any kind of clue that we could.
Hundreds of volunteers descended on County Road 41. Detectives searched for anyone who may have seen something. Sam says he got a phone call. One of the first tips from someone he knew in town.
Called me and said that Quake seen her heading south over the overpass, headed back home. And that's all, that was basically all that was said. So we knew the last sighting of her was at the interstate headed home.
By Quake.
By Quake.
Quake Llewellyn, 28, a familiar face to the family, graduated high school just a few years before Sydney joined the search.
He just walked up and just stood by a tree.
Maggie says Quake appeared to be lurking, maybe trying to listen in near the command post.
Walked over to him and I said, "Quake, can you tell me anything? What's Sydney doing? You know, did you see anything unusual? Did you meet anybody unusual?" He goes, "No, she was just running." Kinda gave me a little hug.
He gave you a hug.
Gave me a hug.
What did that feel like in that moment?
It was something felt odd. I walked back over to the group and I was like, something's wrong.
And odd it was. That very next morning, Quake and his dad went to Arkansas State Police for an interview. After all, Sam says Quake's dad is the one who called in one of those first few tips. State troopers say the two allowed investigators to search their truck. That's when detectives say they found blood inside the cracks of the tailgate. Back on 41, a glimmer of hope.
Well, we were down on our hands and knees, crawling on the ground, and I was like, I found a bead. Sydney's been here.
But as that hope started setting in, Sam's phone rang. Sheriff David Lucas needed him to gather the family.
That was the hardest trip I've ever had to take, is from the overpass to the house. They told me there's a body discovered, and that's basically all they told me.
Even harder to grasp why Llewellyn allegedly picked her daughter. Sam says the two knew each other, but they weren't close. Troopers say Llewellyn passed Sydney, turned around at the overpass, and then hit her with his truck.
We just don't know where or what happened at the time, you know.
At Sydney's final resting spot, there's another bright pink cross.
Don't want her to be forgotten.
A symbol to remember a young woman taken too soon, and an everyday reminder for every parent driving or just jogging by.
Don't forget when you see your child that tell them you love them. Could be your last words.
Last words. Any regrets?
Today, a judge agreed to a plea deal that will send the man accused of killing a Jackson County woman to prison for the rest of his life. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Fox 16 News at 5:30. I'm Donna Terrell.
I'm Kevin Kelly. Quake Llewellyn faced a judge today and the mother of Sydney Sutherland.
Fox 16's Mitch McCoy in Newport. And Mitch, there was a powerful moment in court today.
Yeah, hello. That victim impact statement by Maggie Sutherland, some are calling the most powerful moment in court today, even leaving some court staffers in tears. Tonight, Quake Llewellyn is a prisoner of the state and will never see freedom again.
Today, we have waited 408 days for Quake Llewellyn to be held accountable for my daughter's senseless murder.
Maggie Sutherland says she never has to worry about Quake Llewellyn again in a deal made to spare his life. On Friday, Llewellyn pled guilty to capital murder and rape, a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Llewellyn's defense team tells me the death penalty could have been likely if it had gone to trial.
Sydney's family chose life to offer us that, and I think that's always the best way to go.
Maggie, in a victim impact statement with a shaky voice fighting back tears, asked Llewellyn if her daughter fought or cried during last summer's attack, saying she was not his to take. And when Sydney died, something inside her died too. Maggie then called Llewellyn Satan for tossing her daughter like trash, all while making direct eye contact with him, something she told him to do.
If she wanted him to look at her, I'm glad that he did.
The defense calls it a moment where Llewellyn owned up to his actions.
I wanted to accept responsibility for what he had done.
Tammy Watson, Llewellyn's distant cousin, left court in tears.
I feel so sad for Sydney's family.
Watson says her heart is broken because Llewellyn's parents lost their son today, too.
Quake's mother and father, they have been through so much.
They're the ones that said go in there and you tell them the truth.
Quake Llewellyn has answered for his horrendous actions.
Maggie can go home with the last word. Reporting in Newport, I'm Mitch McCoy.